Welcome to another episode of Neural Insights with Sue and myself. We have a fantastic guest with us today, Peter Lamell, and we are so privileged to kind of spend another 30 to 40 odd minutes with him talking about quite a bit of topics around energy, AI, future of work, which are all close to all of our heart. Welcome, Peter. Thanks for taking time out to speak to us and speak to our audience. It's my privilege to just do a quick try to do justice as well for your illustrious career and kind of inform our audience that you have been part of the energy industry for such a long time. You are a seasoned business leader. You are now board of director for many industries. You're an executive mentor as well, with more than 3 decades of international leadership experience that spans energy, infrastructure, technology, telecommunications, and service sectors as well. I think you have already spent 25 glorious years with Shell, and you have held senior global and regional leadership positions across strategy, sales, and marketing. You've worked in different positions in Shell and also seen the business transformation and also been part of the board of member of Shell Australia. That's quite a lot and a great achievement to pack in 25 years with Shell. After your tenure in Shell, you have led several successful business turnaround as CEO and have served on the boards for more than 25 commercial and not-for-profit organizations. You also have extensive expertise, including organizational transformation, cultural change, operational excellence, governance, sustainability, digital transformation, and you've worked on so many growth initiatives as well. You are also an accomplished executive mentor and advisor. We all need a great mentor all the time. And you have worked with senior leaders and board to navigate complex business challenges and develop high-performing team. I couldn't be more proud to have you in our podcast and love to spend, the next 30 minutes just talking about energy transition, AI, and future of work with you. So officially, welcome, Peter. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, where would you like me to start?
Tell us a bit about your career and, the different changes and experiences you've had, because, in this period where, you've been focused on so many different things, you've also had some really interesting insights and observations on how this industry, but also the environment has changed. And I know you and I have spoken a few times around how some of the opportunities, especially in sustainability, have landed on your plate. And I'm very keen to dig a bit deeper into that. So let's start with that.
Well, thank you. And as we were saying before, so my background was in Shell, and then I went into companies that were in trouble as a CEO and did turnarounds. And since I stopped my full-time career, I've been working on boards and mentoring. But my wife always said to me that I've spent a lifetime polluting the environment, so now is the time to give back. And it's been very interesting. I've developed a real passion for sustainability and for AI. And to the extent that I've gone away and studied both. So I did a course in business sustainability management with Cambridge, and I did a AI fluency sprint with University of Sydney. Because what I've discovered is a lot of people talk about sustainability and a lot of people talk about AI, but very few people actually truly understand what they are and what they mean. And that's been an experience for me, not just on boards, but also actually talking to the executives who are part of the teams. So this to me is really interesting, the whole thing about education and developing the understanding.
Where do you think the industry is headed in terms of sustainability, right? Because with AI, we know natural resources is a huge part of making AI work. So where do you think things are headed, and how do we actually ensure it's sustainable? It's not just saying it for the sake of it, but actually ensuring that there's an environment for future generations.
Look, I think it's a really good question, because a few years ago, there was really starting to become a big impetus for sustainability, for decarbonisation. And some of it, I get the feeling that some of that pressure has been removed, and we're not seeing it enforced as much as it has been in the past. And this is in part the pressure coming from different countries, but also the pressures on organizations. So they got to build shareholder value. What is going to build shareholder value for them? So that I think is really interesting, but I'm going to swing it round the other way and say that I've observed a number of opportunities using AI to drive sustainability. And that to me has been the really exciting thing out of the last 4 or 5 years, that they've developed more and more opportunities to really action it and make sure that sustainability progresses.
Really interesting. I think this is something that is now being spoken about a lot because of obviously the fact that AI is one of the precursors to that, right? Where do you think organizations need to start thinking about this? And what are the skills, more importantly, that you think are needed to make this an ongoing discussion from the board level all the way to the person who's developing code?
So I think the fundamental thing that organizations have to do is to educate the whole organization in both sustainability, but AI and the uses of AI. So yes, boards have to understand it and have to be trained in it. Executive teams in particular do, because people follow their leaders. So what interests my boss fascinates me. But I think you have to take it further. I think the understanding of sustainability and AI has to be at all levels within the organization, because otherwise you're not going to get uptake if people don't understand it. And look, a prime example to me is you talk to people, and most people will have worked with ChatGPT or Claude, and they think that's what AI is all about. But of course, it's so much more than that. And that's why we've got to educate people to understand. So to me, the first thing is education. The second thing is you've got to be very careful in the projects you select to demonstrate how important AI and sustainability is. So choose a fairly simple pilot project that everybody can understand and relate to, and empower the organization to demonstrate what are the goals, then implement the program, make sure that everybody is involved in that, and then see the outcomes. Because a lot of evidence to say that a lot of particularly AI projects, if they're not well documented and well set up, don't actually provide additional income for the organization. So that to me is good. You do a good pilot project, it's successful, people understand it, they're supportive, they can say, hey, if I do this, I can actually build my business and make it more successful. And I'll give you an example in sustainability. So many people think that sustainability is just environmental.
Correct.
But of course, sustainability is social sustainability. So all the things about modern slavery, but it's also economic sustainability. How can you make your company robust for the long term? But equally, the way that I like to get my boards involved is by saying to them, if you really think about sustainability and AI, you can develop additional income streams which will make your organization so much more profitable. And God, that gets people interested when you say they're going to make money out of it.
Well, that's what AI has done, right? The moment you have AI in any program of work, your valuation has gone up phenomenally just because you're doing AI.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. And another thing is, and Peter, the more AI is getting used and recognized in a company, in any industry, it's more often getting tagged to productivity, right? It's getting tagged to, okay, this, if we use this, we're going to get so much of productivity gains by just introducing AI in different processes. In your experience, where do you think AI will fundamentally change the business model? Because just looking at productivity gain is probably one piece of that jigsaw puzzle, right? So the entire business model of energy companies, rather than just pushing for that small needle movement of productivity gains, which probably impact 5 teams, 10 teams, so to say, right?
I'll give you an example of how you can use AI in the energy industry. So this is something I'm personally involved with, and it's how do you produce gas from coal seam gas wells. Now, traditionally, a large number of, in fact, the majority of gas companies, what they need to do to get the gas out of the well is pump water down, and in pumping the water down, the gas comes up. Now, how do they pump the water down? Well, they've got pumps, they've got generators, and I'll tell you what, the majority of those generators are either diesel or gas. So you think about that. Diesel generators, which have got a reputation for breaking down, but generating carbon, and it's costly, and it requires lots of visits, people driving out in trucks. And equally with gas, probably more effective in some ways, but nevertheless, one, they're using gas which they could otherwise sell, but two, it's more CO2 into the atmosphere. So the solution that we've come up with is using solar with battery backup. So that totally eliminates the use of diesel, totally eliminates the use of gas. But also what we've done is put in predictive intelligence. So the predictive intelligence tells you what the weather's like, tells you what the weather's going to be. When should you have your solar on? When don't you? When do you have to build up because you're going to run short of power if not? All those sort of things. So what it also does though is it helps you control the whole gas well from Melbourne or from Sydney. You don't have to do what they do now, which is go out and visit the site every often. So this is just a very simple example of using AI, and in this context, I'm calling it predictive intelligence, but it's AI, but totally eliminate carbon, so decarbonize in total. So that's just a small example of what you can do. But within the industry, you can use it for everything. You can use it to help with oil and gas exploration. You can use it to help in oil production. You can use it, for example, you were talking about downstream. Well, downstream, how you operate your trucks to make sure that you operate as few trucks as possible, but you visit in a logical, sequential way to your customers, but you maintain them according to the appropriate program. There are all these sort of things. And this is what I think people don't understand about AI. Yes, people talk about the big things, but it's so helpful in the small operational details.
I'm just fascinated to kind of break the thinking pattern here, Peter, which is look beyond productivity in adopting AI, because that's the first thing that's getting default. Like this is where AI can help us is improve the productivity of the staff that's working, right?
No, that's right. So that's important. And they're good examples. I mean, examples of using chatbots, for example. So you can use, I went to a major company, one of the major IT companies, and they were telling me that with HR, instead of having their people phone up and say, can I take leave? What are my entitlements? They have a chatbot, and it's a personalized chatbot. So you look at it, but it does all that work. And it's enabled them to reduce the staffing requirement for HR by 60%. Well, you then get into the debate about, oh, well, this is reducing work and work opportunities. But in fact, what they've done is because the people who've been displaced are actually now trained up in AI, they put them into other roles within the organization. And I think this is probably one of the misconceptions about AI, but it's going to lead to mass unemployment and loss of roles.
I think that is definitely very visible now. It's happening so quickly, and it's also happening not necessarily for the right reasons. And I think that's where we need to sort of think about what does this mean in your perspective from your observations, but also your experience in terms of how every decade has panned out since digitization was a thing. How have you seen that environment change specifically in the energy sector? And how do you start to draw in and encourage the younger generation or those who are still going to be working for the next 20, 30 odd years to adopt to this changing environment? And what do you think that environment is going to look like? What's your vision?